What's going on, everybody? Zach here from the Trading Network. Got another weekly market profile forecast for you guys today. Today I wanted to wait until the market opened just to kind of get an idea of where we were at this evening, this afternoon, this morning, wherever you might be watching this. So, as you might recall, if you watched my last video, my line in the sand was 34.74 last week. And as one of our if-then scenarios that we discussed in my previous video, we held nicely above that 34.74 level and moved up, tapped this naked POC that we discussed, and actually moved up through value area high from the week of August 31st and got pretty close to that weekly high as well. So as you can see today, we have actually opened back up right around this 34.74 level. So this is very interesting once again to me, because I think that if we can continue to hold this level and use it as support, we will indeed revisit these higher profile levels from last week and ultimately likely revisit this all-time high and make a new one. So with that, this very well may be the line in the sand once again. As we discussed last week, it's a major area of interest. We already came up here. We absorbed the liquidity at this naked POC. We do have the settlement from Friday at 34.6225, which is likely supporting this idea as well. I would say a nice support area would likely be between 34.74 and 34.62 if you wanted to make this kind of a support range instead of a specific level. So if we wanted to mark that off, I'd be looking for this area to hold to the upside. And if we break settlement, very likely that we will move back down to the weekly low from last week, which lines up very nicely with the value area high from the previous week. And we have a weekly high as well from the week of September 7th at 34.2875. So that's kind of my view at the moment. And one thing that I wanted to do today is give you guys a little bit of a look into how I use the market profile with a regular bar chart, or with my tick chart in this case. So what I will do, for instance, just to mark some major levels to look for, you can see I already have settlement marked here. So I'll go ahead and mark this 34.74 level since it's a major area. And you can't see my settings here, but I actually have separate templates for each type of market profile level. So for instance, you can see the range highs are gray, range highs and lows are gray, value area is blue, point of controls are orange, etc. So what I mean by separate templates is when I plot these lines, I have templates on NinjaTrader that automatically have the colors saved that basically relate to each of my market profile levels. So for instance, right here, I just plotted a weekly high or a range high at 34.74. So I'll go in here and I'll mark this up and say weekly high from, let me double check what date this is. This is the week of October 5th. So I'll call this 10.5 weekly high. We know that that is 34.74, so I'll mark that up. And I will just get rid of this little box for now, just so you guys can see this. So because we have this price line here, you can see it's a little covered up. But this is the 10.5 weekly high level. So what I'll do is I'll just go around and kind of place major levels for the week. Maybe this is a little low because it's all the way down here, 33.44. So quite a bit away. So what I would do is probably mark this level and say, this is the 10.12 weekly low. And that is 34.3150, so I'll mark that. And I could mark this value area high as well and kind of play around with the text here. Make this label under the line. change this to my value area template, which makes it blue, and we'll say 10-12 weekly value area low, which is 34.3375. And let's do a couple levels higher. So we'll do the weekly POC from last week, which is 34.8150. So that would be 10-12 weekly POC, which is the weekly point of control. I got my POC template there. And let's see, this could be a good level, 34.97. Oops. I like that spot. So this is going to be the 824 weekly high. So that's quite a ways away, but relevant levels are relevant levels. So that's going to be the 34.97. And even more so, if you see a major level, especially, you know, a weekly profile level that hasn't been touched in quite a while, or even if it has been touched, you know, you can see that this level right here is very close to the naked POC that we saw last week. So maybe I mark this instead and say, you know, this is the previous naked POC. You could call this the 831 weekly point of control, something like that. So, you know, I would kind of pick between one of these levels since I just labeled that. That's fine, I'll leave that there. And let's do this weekly value area high from the week of, what is that, August 31st. You can see that that also lines up with the initial balance from this weekly profile. Or we could call this, actually let's do this. I'm going to call this the volume point of control. As you can see, we have the highest volume node right here. And a lot of times, as we talked about in the last video, the POC, the TPO, or the time price opportunity point of control, will line up with the volume point of control, because, you know, the area where the most time was spent is typically the area where the most volume was done. You can see on this weekly profile that is not the case. Where the most time spent this week was down around 34.8150, where the most volume was done last week, I'm sorry, is actually 35.15ish. So I'm gonna change this, and I'm gonna say, we'll call this the 10-12 weekly VPOC, or volume point of control, and that will be 35.15. And I'll be looking for some reaction in this area as well, because this also lines up with this level back here. All right, so I think that's sufficient. Plenty of levels for now. So let's see here. Now I'm going to go over to my regular chart here. And let's look at some of these levels. So I've got a 2500 tick. Typically I'm not trading off a 2500. I'm trading off of a 377 for my entries, and then I use the 1000 tick for a little bit of a higher perspective. Just wanted to give you guys a bit of an idea of even just these quick plotted weekly profiles, how nice you get reaction. I can even load some more data so we can go back. You know, maybe I'll load like 60 days here. See how long this takes. All right. So these levels get played very, very nicely. Lots of interest. You can see the volume point of control. Lots of play. Weekly value area low next to the weekly low. Getting a lot of play there. Settlement price from last Friday. Getting a lot of play. Worked up through this weekly high. And again, if we continue to work up, I'm expecting to revisit this 34.81 level rather quickly. And I would imagine that if I pulled up a, you know, my daily profile where I can see the individual sessions, you know, there's probably some more levels in here, and definitely some more levels in this area as well that I will be, marking off and putting in my trade plan for tomorrow. But with that, I really just wanted to show you guys the power of market profile. Going back to the profile real quick, this is how I remove the guesswork from my trading. I don't sit around and, think, oh, is this a support level? Is this a support level? Is this a support level? No, I know these levels are important because they're calculated from the market profile. I don't need to guess and waste time, honestly, with plotting my own support and resistance when I have things like that. So what I will do is I will plot levels from the weekly profile, like you just saw me do. I will plot levels from my individual session market profiles, more specifically, and I will also use my indicators to give me major areas to take trades off of. So between these market profile levels, between the weekly profile levels, and between the more granular session profile levels, and indicators like my VWAP bands, I have a lot of levels to work from. A lot of levels to work from. You can see, just to give you a quick example, VWAP band here matching up with a weekly profile level. Very, very high probability trade. And let's see, it looks like we even have some divergence there. So, I mean, when you get bearish divergence at a weekly profile level that also coincides with a VWAP band, extremely high probability trade. And sure, maybe it might run up above the level a little bit, but very, very high probability. You can see here, third lower deviation matching up perfectly with settlement price. This is not a coincidence. These are high probability trades that I look for and that I take on a daily basis. So I don't want to make this video too long, but here's a rundown. Mark off the profile levels in my trade plans that you can access in our Facebook group. And if you're not already a member, you can find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/the trading network. I post trade plans daily based on market profile for the ES futures market. And I essentially line up these levels and I'll put them in a trade plan and I'll release that around the market open, New York open, every weekday. Give it a shot. Plot the levels that I put in the trade plan, and especially look at the image link at the bottom of the trade plan so you can see quite literally all of the levels that I have plotted on my chart every single day before I start trading. This will start to show you how high probability market profile levels are, especially if you're using them in combination with other indicators. You can see even right here that I have Fibonacci pivots lining up with my VWAP levels. So there is a little bit of insight, or a little bit more insight for you guys on how I'm trading on a daily basis, how I'm marking up my major levels, and why they're so high probability if you have indeed been following our trade plans. If you guys enjoy this content, please feel free to subscribe and leave a like down below. And if you're interested in learning more about my trading system, how I use market profile, and how I use the Trading Network proprietary indicator package, please feel free to join the Facebook group that I mentioned a little bit earlier. You can find us at facebook.com/groups/the Trading Network. You can also check us out at thetradingnetwork.io, where you will find information on my one-on-one mentorships. You will find information on the proprietary indicator package that you saw briefly here today in this video. And you will also find information on our private Discord community where you can watch me trade Monday through Friday every day. With that, I wish you guys an excellent trading week. Trade well, trade safe, and make sure you're managing that risk. See you in the next one.